So I was wondering if you want to go for a run next on the Metal Pulpit. Thanks for joining me for another Metal Pulpit. And okay, so I'm not actually going to go for a run. And fact of the matter is, if you ever see me running, you better start running too, because something's chasing me. I'm talking more of the approach that Paul gives in Hebrews chapter 12. You know the verse where, therefore, since we're surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, and he talks about running the race with endurance and all of that stuff. You know, this last Sunday at the church I pastor here in Wapaka, Wisconsin, we celebrated 15 years that this church has been going. Some people thought it was 15 years that I've been at the church. That's not the case. It was truly meant to be a 15-year celebration of the church since its launch, rather relaunch. I've been at that church probably 16 and a half years. But I look back on that and I think, my goodness, even before that, I was 8 years as a youth pastor in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and total of 24, 25 years that I've been doing this so far. Now that's just being a vocational pastor. You start tacking on the year that I got saved. I remember I was 9 years old. I was a part of this thing called Royal Rangers. It's like a faith-based Boy Scout club. And I got saved at 9 years old at what was called the Council Fire. And the guest speaker was Johnny Barnes. He was the guy that started the Royal Ranger program and successfully launched it. Now that was 37 years ago that I gave my heart to the Lord. And I gotta say that I'm still running. I'm still running this race. Some of you that are watching this, you've been saved far more than I have. Some of you watching, you may just be days old in Christ. But regardless of the fact, we have a race to run. And I can look at the past 16 and a half years of being at this church, 15 years as the pastor of this church, and I can confidently say that there have been difficult times. There have been. What I so admire about long-term Christians is their perseverance. I was talking with my pastor, who I had growing up, this past weekend about where I'm at and all of that in the church, and he called to congratulate me and stuff, and he goes, I only served as a pastor at one church. I said, I remember that. Yeah, it was 30 years he was on staff. And I said, I admire people like him. I admire people like our friend that's down the road in a neighboring city called Oak Creek. But I also admire people and love people like Pastor Bob Beeman, who's been doing this for years, decades, and still going at it. Here's the deal. We're not perfect. We simply are not. I got to say that 2020, the year 2020, has been a very difficult year. I came out of 2018 walking with a limp after my mom passed away, and then 2019 was good. It was a good year. And then 2020 hit, and I'm hit with multiple surgeries. Never had a surgery in my life. And yet here I am at 46 going through 4 surgeries, all of that stuff. And yet I am reminded that we need endurance to run this race. You need endurance to run this race. And that's why we need each other. Now, what puts some gas in my tank is the thought that Paul says, since we're surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, okay, now he's going supernatural, now he's going spiritual, however you want to say it. There's people watching us, cheering us on. I got to believe my mom's one of them up there saying, you can do this, Bob. You can do this. And we need that in our life. We need each other in our life. And I'm going to go one step further to what the Apostle Paul said. If you're going to run a race of endurance, that doesn't mean you take off fast out of the gate. That doesn't mean you're full-on sprint through the whole thing. That means a steady pace. But it also means being brutally aware of who you are and what your limitations are. Now, the Apostle Paul goes a little further and he says, I boast of my weaknesses. In other words, he's fully in tune with who he is and what his limitations are. I love that. I absolutely love that. In our church culture today, we're preached at to do that, but we don't always have the forum, the arena to be like that. If you're credentialed with if you're a pastor, you find it very hard to just be open with people. You find it very hard that they're going to look at you differently, all of these things. Maybe your closest friends you still don't feel vulnerable with. But let me encourage you to find somebody that you can be brutally honest, so that you can boast of your weaknesses. Because when you are in tune with your weaknesses, you can run a race of endurance. Does that make sense? I hope so. Let it be an encouragement that, you know what? The world's full of people that fall out of Christianity. They may try it for a year, 2 years, a month, whatever. Some people decades, and they end up giving up on it. And I don't know that I don't think it's because they're running with endurance. They're going to the latest book, the latest teaching, the latest song, the latest church trend, the latest growth model, all this stuff. And they're not really tapped into that true relationship with God that keeps them on the path through thick and thin. There's times I've wanted to throw in the towel, but I don't. Because as the disciple says, to whom else shall we turn? So stay on the path, keep the endurance going, keep running that race. And if you have help, or you need help, or you have questions, or you need someone to chat with, any of us sanctuary teachers are available. But you can also email me, PastorBobAdams@gmail.com. Have a great day.